It was indeed a war that defined a century, a bloody conflict that shapes our political, social, and economic ideals to this very day. World War II did not end with Germany's surrender. That's what a lot of people still believe, and you ask a lot of kids, they'll tell you that. But it was actually partner Japan who held out until the very end. But we mark VE Day, a Victory in Europe Day, to commemorate the demise of the savage philosophies of Nazism and fascism and the rise of the Western tradition of freedom. An estimated 80 million people lost their lives in the Second World War, but Germany's surrender offered just a moment of solace and a little bit of hope for peace. This was the day, 70 years ago, when the world breathed in deeply that solace and, of course, hoped they would never have to face an evil like that ever again.
President Truman officially announces the end of German resistance.
This is a solemn but glorious hour. I wish that Franklin D. Roosevelt had lived to see this day. General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. The flags of freedom fly all over Europe.
Victory year. How can so tremendous a period be reviewed in a few minutes? Only by taking its highlights, its very highest lights. A few mighty events overshadowed all the rest. VE, Victory in Europe. Mr. Churchill announced it.
We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing. Today is Victory in Europe Day.
Britain took his words to heart. Never was there such a day of genuine rejoicing.
Victory in Europe brought wild rejoicing throughout the Allied world as the Big Three announced the downfall of Nazi Germany. New York's celebration is typical of the nation's joy at the end of nearly 6 years of war in Europe. It's a great day as a thankful people let loose their pent-up emotions.
It was no easy task. In Europe and the Pacific, months of savage, bloody fighting lay ahead. Every foot of the way was bitterly contested by a ruthless enemy. But step by step, he was pushed back by the Allied armies. The underground forces of liberation knew their finest hour when the people of Paris rose to strike at the enemy. Even as the Allies battered at the gates, freedom returned to the City of Light. Freedom. This was the prize for which millions of free men had taken up arms.
In the summer sunshine, the beaches of Normandy lie peaceful and uncrowded. The remains of Hitler's Atlantic Wall lie crumbling. The pillbox has given way to the beach hut. Very different from that day 25 years ago, June the 6th, 1944, when the biggest armada the world has ever seen landed the Allied armies onto these very beaches. This was to be the longest day. Now only the rusting guns and ragged concrete are left to remind us that the longest day happened here.
Actually, it was on May 8th of VE Day, but on May 9th, the Russians and the Germans were still fighting on that day. The Russians lost 600 soldiers on May 9th against the Germans, and the Germans had more than 2 million men taken prisoner in the latter stages of that war. Let us give thanks to all who served. Stand down for a few moments. The arena prepares to begin right here on MidPoint.